I think certain things are self-evident. You saw it all. Now, whether the 14th Amendment applies, I'll let the court make that decision. But he certainly supported an insurrection. And no question about it. None. Zero. And he seems to be doubling down on about everything.
Ben Domenech joining us now. Ben, you know, it's extraordinary. First, he said he wasn't going to comment because he didn't want to interfere with the courts, et cetera. Then in the very next breath, he calls Trump an insurrectionist. What do you make of this?
Well, I make of it as that's about how long Joe Biden's memory works these days. Just in the mere seconds later, forgetting that he's not supposed to comment on these things. Look, I think that this is a horrible decision. I think it's laughable. I think that it is certainly out of step with what the people who actually wrote Section 3 of the 14th Amendment intended. I also think that there are a lot of questions about questions that had perhaps been academic in the past about whether this applies to federal office holders, including the president of the United States, and also, of course, whether they can be enforced by state level courts and officials. And so these are all questions that I think have to be resolved, and the Supreme Court ought to weigh in on these questions. And look, as you said before, if you have a court stepping in and taking away the right and ability of people to choose their leaders, then I think that that's the height of hubris on the part of our judicial branch to think that they have that ability, taking it away from the voters to decide for themselves. That's just not a good thing, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat. They should be able to stand for election, and then the voters can make up their mind.
Even if that decision about an old Civil War rule is upheld, the fact is that he has not been convicted of insurrection. He hasn't even been charged with insurrection. It can't be just an opinion that keeps him off that ballot. I got another one for you.
You can't just say he's like a Confederate and move on from there.
Right. Well, I want to sort of related to all this is the latest Fox poll. Over 50% of Iowans support Trump in the Republican primaries, 34 points ahead of second place Governor Ron DeSantis. And again, it seems like these decisions, these lawfare decisions, I'm sure the Colorado decision is going to have the same effect, only increase Trump's lead.
Yes, and among Republican primary voters, I think we have learned a lesson over the past year that's very clear, which is that every time that Democrats engage in this type of lawfare pursuit, they see his numbers go up. Republicans are naturally defensive about feeling like their leading candidate, effectively, a former president, effectively running as an incumbent in terms of the popularity that he has within his own party, is someone that Democrats seem solely focused on preventing from being legally capable of standing for the office again. They see through the mythology that is being put forward by this lawfare faction, and they respond in kind by saying that they're even more invested in supporting it.
All right, let's get back to Biden for a second, because a lot of things are happening affecting his bad poll numbers. You've got a new piece out in the Spectator explaining how Democrats went anti-Israel. I know that has led to some supporters on the left abandoning Joe Biden. What actually happened? What pushed so many Democrats to become anti-Israel?
Well, I think that one of the big things that happened is that you had this socialist idea really take over the aspect of the party that was really becoming the leading voice among younger voters, teaching a form of victimhood that was propagated through our higher ed institutions, which has obviously been in the news of late, and teaching them that basically Israel was an oppressor state. That's something that took hold in a much stronger way than I think leading Democrats understood. And now they're in open warfare internally, politically over this. It could have very negative consequences for them. And I'm curious if it's going to spill over in Chicago this coming summer when they have their national convention.
Maybe a repeat of 1968. You don't remember that. I do. That was quite something. Of course, led to a debacle for Democrats. Ben, great to see you. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.